Good evening. Welcome to a special edition of That's World Boxing. A delayed appearance from Sean, but he got here in the end. So, good evening, Sean.
Evening, Cole. Nice to be back on, mate.
Yeah. I thought we'd have the elite on tonight. We let the amateurs go on last night, and then the elites on tonight. So we're going to talk about Eubank Jr versus Benn, which has been confirmed. Obviously, rumour is 26th of April at Spurs, but Turkey's been a bit sheepish about what the finer details. But give me your thought on the fight then, Sean, and who's the winners and who's the losers.
Yeah, I mean, God, it feels like a lifetime we've been speaking about this fight. I remember all those years ago when it was made, we was all discussing everything, and then the drugs test come out the night of the live show, I think. So, yeah, it feels a lifetime ago, as I say. In terms of the fight, I think the fans are the winners, sort of like it or not, what's happened with Conor, Benn and the drugs test and everything in between. Ultimately, it is still a big fight, and you would have to say it's probably one of the biggest fights out there in British boxing at the moment.
And let's have it right. A few people on the channel are saying they're not going to watch this fight. Listen, they're going to watch it, aren't they, Sean? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, even if they say that they're not, as you just said there, Kyle, we know the real reason, and they will.
Yeah. So coming on to the weight, we believe it's going to be at 160. We believe that Conor Benn's team, Matchroom, want a 10% rehydration clause in there. We don't know if that's in there or not at the minute. We don't know the finer details. But at 160, who are you leaning towards, Sean?
Well, I guess everything logical would say Chris Eubank. I mean, he's the natural middleweight. He's the bigger guy. So sort of common sense would say just purely for that reason, you would have to side with Eubank.
I do like the way Turkey says, enough's enough. You've been quabbling too much between promotional companies. I'm now going to take over the negotiations. And it just proves again, don't it, Sean, that when Turkey wants something to happen, it happens, right?
Yeah, I guess for him, there's no biasness in any of these fights. He's just the middleman, I guess. So if he says you've got to jump, I guess the fighters just say how high and he gets things done.
Are you alarmed that Eubank Jr haven't been photographed signing the contract? Do you think that there's any possibilities don't happen?
No, I don't think so. I don't think sort of Turkey's the kind of guy would have put something out if it generally wasn't all signed and sealed. What I do think might happen is we may see them on breakfast TV tomorrow, for example, and repeating something like we saw with the dads, with them sort of officially signing it. I can see that happening.
Do you think Chris Eubank Sr gets involved in this fight because it makes it more commercially viable, or do you think he sits out?
I think if everything's sort of genuine, as in the rift between junior and senior, I don't think he will, to be honest. I mean, he senior seems a guy that sort of sticks to his principles, and if he's annoyed, I can't see him being there. I don't think he needs the money. I don't think any sort of money will tempt him to be involved if sort of his feelings are generally he doesn't want to be.
Well, he did say, didn't he, that he doesn't believe Chris Eubank Jr should be operating at in and around 160. So it'd be quite interesting to see if Turkey can convince him, let's say, to get involved in the promotion, because the challenge Turkey's got is Eddie has gone on record today in Belfast as saying that he wants to create a big narrative around this fight. Well, if you want to create a big narrative, you need Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr to be involved, right?
Yeah, you do. But now, given the sort of narrative, as I suppose you would call it, that's played out with the whole drugs test in Junior and Conor Benn, I don't really think it does have to be involved. I think the two sons can sort of push it. It's already massive. So I'm not really sure if the dads need to be involved to make it any bigger, really.
So I've gone for Spurs in the headline in terms of where I think it's going to happen. If you had to put your last pound on the venue, Sean, are you going anywhere different?
I may change it for 50p's, and I think I'll go Spurs, and I think the other 50p I'll put West Ham. I think it'll be one of those two grounds.
Not Wembley?
I don't think so. Although Eddie Hearn did sort of mention that could be a possibility today in Belfast, I think yeah, I just don't think it will sort of be as big a card, especially if they're still muting AJ for there as well in the summer. I can't see them doing 2 Wembley shows in a year.
And let's be brutally honest, these two I don't think sell out a stadium on their own, do they? So who do you expect to see on the undercard, Sean? Any front runners that you consider might be on the undercard?
I've got no idea, to be honest. I know sort of Eddie Hearn said today that it's going to be a big British feel. As we spoke about in our chat today, it'd be good to see a female fight on there. But as far as names and who may be on there, I've not really seen too many rumours of potential fights, to be honest.
And just coming back to rehydration clause for a minute, if there is a rehydration clause, does that change your mind in terms of who wins, Sean?
Well, I guess it depends what the limitations are. From what I've read from what I've read and heard, I think it's along the IBF rehydration, which is what, £10. So I saw Conor Benn was sort of saying he doesn't want Eubank coming in at more like heavyweight. So I think just because of their weight, as we naturally spoke about earlier, given Eubanks the natural 160, already he has enough advantages, I think, going into the fight in terms of the weight, with or without a rehydration clause.
The only concern I have from a Eubank Jr perspective is when he's boiled down to 160 or in and around that weight, i.e. Liam Smith, although he won the rematch, the first fight, his punch resistance was absolutely gone, wasn't it? So there is that question mark, isn't there, around Eubank at this weight? Because you could argue he is super middle as a rule, isn't there? So there is a question mark there, right?
Yeah, I think there is, but I think he's fighting Saudi. When was it? Towards the back end of last year. That was at middleweight, and I don't think he looked too bad at the weigh-in for that one. So I guess like all books, it just depends how they make the weight. If they do it professionally and properly, I think he'll be okay.
Playing devil's advocate though, Sean, his opponent in Saudi is nowhere near the level of Conor Benn, I suppose, right?
Well, yeah, I guess sort of Conor Benn post everything. You could say they're on a similar level if you want to play that sort of game. But I think no, in all seriousness, yeah, that's right. I mean, it was for the world famous IBO middleweight title, so yeah, the opponent was at least at that level. But no, I agree. I think Conor Benn's definitely a stay in the test and a bigger name.
So if Conor Benn was to lose this fight, which is quite possible, how damaging could this be for his career, Sean? Because he's had a bit of an indifferent period, to be kind.
Yeah, I don't really think it does too much damage for Conor Benn, if I'm being honest. I think the damage it does do would be to Chris Eubank, because he would be beaten by a smaller guy, a 147 fighter. But I think for Conor Benn, it's a win-win, really. I mean, it's the biggest fight of his career. Obviously, he's had the in brackets ban, if you want to call that, in the UK. So yeah, for him, I don't really think there's anything to lose apart from damage to his pride, because at the end of the day, he can always go back down to 147 and see what he can do in that division.
But we've seen it in previous fighters, right? It can be difficult to get that weight back off and be active at that lower weight. So it is a little bit of a risk, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think Conor Benn's sort of a bit different, really. You don't necessarily. I mean, Kell Brook's the big example, right? When he went up to 160 and then went back to 147. But I think with Conor Benn, he lives the life, unlike some other fighters that have fluctuated in weights have. So I think for him, it may be easier to come back down and be back at his natural weight afterwards.
And let's be brutally honest, Sean. Although Team Benn are talking about they've got a lot of options on the table, they really haven't got that many options that's going to generate the dough that this fight's going to generate, right?
No, absolutely. It's by far the biggest payday for both of them, I would presume. I'm guessing Eubank's getting paid for more for this fight than he would have for a Canelo fight. So I think for both of them, it's probably their career highest payday.
And I worry for Eubank Jr. in terms of he can't really win. Because if he takes him out early, it's because Conor Benn's a smaller fighter, and the danger is if he was to get beat, like you've alluded to, his career could be in tatters, right?
Yeah, I mean, even sort of going back to the family name thing, a Ben's never beat a Eubank, so there's that as well for the sort of family history side. But yeah, definitely, there's no doubt about it. If Eubank was to lose, it's absolutely a damaging defeat for him.
So 10 minutes into the video, Sean, here we are. I'm giving you last pound coin to put a bet on the prediction. Just reiterate how you think this fight goes.
Well, I think sort of size and weight's going to play the determining factor. I know the talk is Conor Benn will sort of be able to hold his own. I don't think he will. Since he's returned in the fights he has, he doesn't look anywhere near like he was previously. You can make your minds up as to why that is. So I think for me, I can't see anything past the Chris Eubank win, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending which way you see it.
Okay, I tend to agree as well. I think Eubank Jr. will win this fight. So, Sean, quick mention for the Eubank versus Benn episode 2 of the Rewind series that's dropping soon onto the channel. Episode 1 of the original fight between Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. is already on the channel. Sean, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Much appreciated. And we'll catch you on the next video.
Cheers.